Welcome to Wellness Made Easy with Wendy and Kirsten.
Hi, I'm Wendy. After I graduated with my master's in wellness management, I started my own company, T2 Coaching, Health, Fitness, and Sport.
And I'm Kirsten, an athlete, vegan, life coach, and girl mom, running a business focused on helping others create a life they love.
We are here to explore all things wellness to help you become the person you've always wanted to be.
So if that's why you're here, open your ears and your mind as we tackle the world of wellness together. Hey, everyone.
Hi, Kirsten. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Wendy. How are you?
I'm good. You sound like you have a little bit of a cold.
I do. I've been sick for about a week. I thought it was just like laryngitis from yelling because we had, I've been teaching a lot of classes and we had a swim meet and I just thought it was losing my voice. But then a couple days later, my head got really congested and now I'm, the normal little, I've still been doing my training and I feel okay. I'm just a little under the weather, I would say.
Yeah, hopefully you'll be able to make it through the podcast.
I will. I know it's so much better now. A couple days ago, like our swim meet was 5 days ago and it was rough. Like you have to yell at a swim meet and it's hard. When you don't have a voice, a swim meet is really challenging.
Yep.
So what is your wellness? Oh, I wanted to announce we have a podcast wellness win. Our first group wellness win for the podcast. We got somebody on social media shared their wellness win with us. So that's a wellness win for our podcast because we keep saying, you guys, we want to hear your wellness wins. Share them with us. So do you want to share yours and I'll share mine and then I'll share our group, our podcast wellness win.
Yeah. And this is a podcast wellness win as well. But it's a personal wellness win because I had a friend in Colorado reach out to me after listening to I think it was episode 11, our episode on disordered eating and eating disorders. And again, I've lived in Georgia since 2016. So, I mean, I'm kind of like out of the loop with friends from Colorado, acquaintances, except it's due to social media. I kind of can keep in touch with people or at least look up and see what they're doing. So she had mentioned how her daughter was going through some issues with eating and body image and feeling fat. And, she said, like my story of my issues that I had really resonated with her and what her daughter's going through. Like I know, when I would look in the mirror, I was really thin. I was 105 pounds at 5'7", and I knew I was thin. But I think if I ate a bagel, I thought my gut would explode.
Right.
But it didn't. I would eat a bagel and look at myself and say, okay, you're still really thin. But what if, I had these weird, non-rational thoughts in my head. And I shared this with this friend and she said, oh my God, my daughter's seen a therapist and I'm the only person that she feels like is relatable because I've been through it. So that made me feel really good that this one person has benefited from listening to our podcast and something that I wouldn't say I'm passionate about, but I'm so, I did my thesis on eating disorders among triathletes. And I've experienced it myself. So it's really something that I want to help others overcome because they can overcome it. Look what happened to me and look at me now, so it was just really encouraging to be able to be, I don't know if inspiration is the right word, but to be able to help someone.
Right. Yeah. It isn't, to me, that's what inspiration is by you sharing a part of who you are, you help somebody else.
Yeah. So that was a huge wellness win for me and the podcast.
That is awesome. My wellness win has to do with eating as well. I've been, it's a two-part, but it's both about eating. One is I'm eating up all the food in my house. Like instead of just buying all the things I love, I got a bunch of food a couple weeks ago from the food bank. So I've been making more like creative meals and eating things that I haven't eaten in a while, like pasta, because I have a kind of a love-hate relationship with pasta because I tend to just keep eating it and eating it and eating it.
It's a trigger food. It used to be a trigger food for me.
Yeah. Bread is it. And I made some garlic bread and bread's a big trigger food for me. But I got this like free pasta with this pesto sausage. I forgot what brand it was, but one of the vegan brands. It was this pesto sausage. And I was like, I want to use all this food because it's all the food bank has it because it's all like either like recently expired or about to expire. And so I wanted to use it all up. And so I was like, oh, it's pesto sausage. And then I had some pasta. I was like, oh, that might be a good pasta meal. And I put garlic and um, butter and cheese and, all these other things. But so I've been using up these foods that I typically don't eat. Like
Mm-hmm.
last night I made pancakes because I had some pancake mix, and pancakes are also a trigger food for me. I have like 50 trigger foods. Um, but so part of my wellness win is making these foods, being kind of brave and eating them, and not like freaking out about it. Like exactly what you just said. Like I ate pasta 3 nights in a row and I didn't gain 10 pounds. So that's definitely a big wellness win. And along with that, I've been doing this thing that it's not a new thing, where you eat what you want to eat, right? So whenever I've been hungry, like getting off work last night, I was like, okay, if I could eat anything in the house, what would it be? Like, what do I feel like eating?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would nourish my mind, my body, my soul? Not desperately, I went too long without eating and now I'm just going to eat anything I can find, or not, I should eat a salad because I had pasta for lunch, but really truly like looking through the house and being like, if I could eat anything here right now, what would it be? And so that's a really big wellness win for me too, because I've typically been planning my meals so much in advance for the past 30 years that
Mm-hmm.
I eat what's on my meal plan,
Yeah.
regardless of how I'm feeling. And so I've really been, and so last night I got home from work. It was like 9:30 at night. I was so tired. I haven't been feeling well. I just yelled at kids for 4 hours, 5 hours at the pool. And I was like, what sounds good? And I was like, pancakes sound good. And so I made pancakes for dinner last night and I didn't explode. Like you said, my stomach didn't blow up. I didn't feel crappy. I need to close the door. My dogs are really loud. And then when I get back, I'll read this awesome wellness win.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge wellness win. Because again, we talk a lot about nutrition here on the Wellness Made Easy podcast, but I think once you struggle or once you have a preoccupation with food for so long, you continue to have a preoccupation with food, but to have it in a healthier way. And so we did something similar, not intentional, but we just lack of going to the grocery store, lack of wanting to go to the grocery store, lack of knowing what I want to eat when I go to the grocery store. We kind of, my husband and I kind of hit rock bottom last night. We're like, we have like literally have no food. Like we had cereal. I ate dry cereal last night. I wanted cereal. I knew I wanted the cereal. But I wanted it with my almond milk and he had his cereal and he used the last of it. So I'm like, I'm just still going to eat my dry cereal because there's really nothing left.
Right.
So I did go to the grocery store today. And sometimes when you're sick, your taste buds are different. And
Right.
so really acknowledging like, really, what do I want? Sometimes it's hard to know what you want when you can't taste or smell because you have this head congestion going on.
Right.
So good job.
Thank you. If you run out of milk, so I've been making my own milk, plant
Mm-hmm.
milk. For Christmas, I bought myself a milk making machine. It's kind of like this pretty much like a really extreme blender.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried a few different kinds of milk, nuts to make it, and the one I like the best is cashews. So
Mm-hmm.
now I make my own cashew milk. I've been making it for 3 months now.
Yeah.
It's just cashews and water, and it feels really good. And speaking of eating stuff, I was really nervous at first because my 2 tablespoons, the scoop is like a tablespoon plus, and it's 2 scoops of cashews per quart of milk. And when I looked initially, I added it up and it's way more calories than what I typically drink, because the almond milk I usually drink is like the unsweetened almond milk and it's 30 calories per serving. And this cashew milk that I'm making from scratch is like 4 times that many calories. And I'm like, oh, I can't believe that I'm switching this out. I'm gonna, like, I was all nervous about it. And it's been 3 months. I haven't used a single like big carton of, I used to, buy a carton of
Mhm.
plant milk, like 2 of them a week. Haven't had that waste. It's just cashews and water. So it's like no preservatives or anything. I haven't gained 10 pounds from the extra calories in the cashews. So another food wellness win.
Well, and again, going back to the almond milk, oat milk, I lost my appetite for that after my surgery in 2023. So I just recently, in the last month or two, started drinking it, and really I don't even drink it. I just kind of wet the cereal. I'm really into this kashi cereal, and I just need a little bit on top. But it's interesting how I just didn't want it anymore. I remember my mother buying it for me because she thought that's what I wanted. And I'm like, no, that stuff like kind of grosses me out. It is wasteful. Again, the containers and all that. And we did for a period started making our own. But because I wasn't drinking it, I stopped making it.
Yeah.
But that's a good reminder. Thank you. Because I could make almond milk because we do
Yeah.
have
You
the
can make
almond.
any kind of nuts
Yeah.
or oats or whatever. And it's really
Yeah.
good.
Oats. Yep.
Yeah, and if I want, because Cora likes it, my daughter likes it a little thicker, so then
Mm-hmm.
I'll put in more nuts,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes it thicker. But
Mm-hmm.
even with the amount I make, it's very creamy. The cashew
Mm-hmm.
milk is really creamy. It's really good. So make your own milk. Um, so we got our wellness win for our podcast. We had a long time listener. She posted on her social media some of her wellness wins, and then she kind of thanked us for it. And I just wanted to read it because it's inspiring. She's somebody I've worked with for a couple years. She's had a heck of a journey through a lot of medical stuff. When she started off, she was on a ton of medication. She was obese. She had a lot of issues, and now she's really thriving and training for her first 70.3. So
Nice.
pretty awesome. So, and she calls Wednesday Win, WIN day. So kind of goes along with our wellness win. So she calls it Wednesday. And she posted, "Ah, Wednesday. Hello, my fantastic friend. We meet again. You are a gift and sometimes a chore to see the wins." So she has struggles like a lot of us with seeing the wins, especially through exhaustion and goal getting. I've never really been competitive, but very goal oriented. As a kid, I remember feeling like winning meant somebody had to lose, and that just made me feel sad. I'd like to consider myself a reframe gamer and master of my own races, no matter how I finish. But even this girl needs help with prioritizing life and reframing her to-dos, which is why I want to celebrate this Wednesday with 2 special ladies and the truly awesome wellness podcast that supported me in my win this week. Thanks, Kirsten McKay and Wendy Mader, for all of the podcasts. But this self-love podcast from Wellness Made Easy hit home. It was a struggle to turn my brain off enough to get to sleep through the never-ending obstacles of the heat-challenged menopause sleep. That seems to be my latest endurance sport, long enough to actually sleep 10 hours. Loved your take on what you like about the race, Wendy, and how things that are hard for you, Kirsten, are the very things you celebrate as wins. Go check out these ladies and reframe anything you're feeling less than celebratory about in wellness. And one of the things I really like about this is our podcast last week, we talked about success and how you can reframe anything you do as a success if you choose. And this week, we're actually going to talk about failure, which some people say is the opposite of success. I would beg to differ, as I'm sure Wendy does as well. So we kind of wanted to talk about failures. So this post that our listener that I just read it's kind of about that reframing the success. And I've had to do that a lot this week. And Wendy and I have both done it a lot over the years. If you've listened to any of our podcasts, we kind of touch on this topic quite a bit in our wellness wins and in our own experiences. So, so that's what we want to talk about today is failure, what failure means to us, what it means to you, how to define it, and what to do with it.
I love this. So, again, just general definition, failure is the inability to achieve a desired goal or outcome. It can be a setback, a learning experience, or a stepping stone to future success, depending on how it's perceived and responded to. Failure is not necessarily a negative thing. It often provides valuable lessons, builds resilience, and highlights areas for improvement. In sports, again, that's my life has really been always revolved around sports and endurance training. Failure can be a missed target, a DNF, did not finish, or an injury, but it can also be an opportunity to refine strategies and grow stronger. And I know this is cliche, but it's really true. If it wasn't for my failures, I would not have had all the successes I've had, not only in my sport, but just everything in life. Because I take the failures, and again, it's not a negative word to me, but because we're kind of grow up to you hear the sound of yourself saying failure, it sounds some negative, but again, it's your perception and it's how you frame it. And what I really thought was cool, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this, is the acronym for failure. Your first attempt in learning under realistic expectations. FAILURE.
Ooh,
I thought
I
that was a
like
cool thing to
that.
pull up. I had to pull it up. I had to Google it because I remember there was an acronym for failure. But I just love that first attempt in learning under realistic expectations.
Oh, I do love that. And failure is like Wendy and I talk about sport a lot because that's a big part of our lives. But even, I mean, think about any area of your life. Like I was married and I'm divorced. So to some people, that's a failure. I had a failed marriage, but I don't think of my marriage as a failure at all. Like my marriage was amazing. It was 21 years of personal growth, learning how to compromise and be with another human being and getting to know somebody on such a deep level. It's like there's so many amazing things that came away from it. I would never consider it a failure, but a lot of people would say, oh, divorce is a failed marriage.
Yeah, or a failed relationship. So that just reminded me in 1995, I had just finished all my credits. I was at Eastern Michigan University. I finished the credits. All I had to do was student teach. I was going to be a math teacher at secondary education. I moved to Colorado, signed a lease, moved to Colorado, got placed to student teach in Colorado. And 2 weeks into it, I quit. Quitting, that's probably still the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Quitting is considered failing,
Right.
and it's just a different word, but defining it is pretty close to being the same. And so I had to call my student teacher, my supervisor that I was student teaching under, and tell her. And I was scared. Oh my God. I mean, I was sweating. My heart was beating. I was really scared, but it wasn't the right thing to do. I had seen how the supervisor instructor, how much she loved her job. And I just wasn't ready. I mean, I moved to Colorado for 300 days of sunshine to train. So I moved to Colorado with my friend. I didn't move there to like, oh my God, I was going to be working 8 to 10 hours a day without pay for 2 semesters of school. And when was I going to get to train? I had to have another job. I mean, I had to have a paying job on top of student teaching. I just wasn't ready.
Right.
And so, you know, looking back at that, it was the best thing that ever happened to me was quitting, failing at student teaching, because in the long run, I ended up going back to school, graduate school, and I used my teaching skills and love of learning and teaching in the coaching that I do. So I'm still a teacher, and I'm a teacher of sport rather than being a teacher of mathematics.
Right. Yeah, that is huge. And I I have probably, I'm not exaggerating, I've probably started 50 businesses over my life.
Uh-huh.
And if for people who've known me for a long time,
Yes.
you remember like I've probably started at least 20 multi-level marketing businesses
Mhm.
alone. Like 5 different supplement businesses. There's so many things I've I've s- I would love to go back and count. I've probably reserved like 200 URLs for different for different website addresses to be like, oh, I'm going to start this business or I'm going to start this thing. And I failed at most of them because if I was still doing them, they would be a part of my life. But to me, again, like every single one of those was a learning experience. Like I was a passion parties consultant for like 15 years. That has nothing to do with anything I do now, but it taught me so much personal growth. Some of my very best friends I still have to this day, I met doing that business.
Mhm.
And so that alone is worth its weight in gold, is just the relationships I've developed from going to networking and starting all these businesses and trying new things and being a high risk person. And I mean, I probably people around me probably was like, God, this girl's crazy. And whenever I would start a new thing, I would be so nervous to share it
Mhm.
because I'm like, oh gosh, people are going to think, oh, here goes Kirsten again, starting another business. But you know what? It's like I said, every single experience has taught me something. And every single experience that I've had that has been a failure has been really valuable.
Mhm. Well, with athletes I coach, I find that the athletes who take failure the wrong way, in the negative way, are those that are really type A and really, strive to follow every detail regarding intensity, duration, um, of their workout. And if they're tired and they can't hit the certain wattage or a certain pace or a certain heart rate, they really take that as they failed the workout. And to me, I'm like, okay, whether you're perceiving that as positive or negative, sure, you failed the workout. You didn't
Right.
do it as intended, but these are the reasons why. Let's, like get over it. Let's learn from it. Let's look at all the factors that impacted that workout. Again, sleep, hydration, nutrition, stress level, desire, motivation, so many factors, days leading up to it. And let's change some things and move forward and get you to feel like you were more successful the next time.
Right. It's interesting that you brought up workouts because I didn't even think about this. We knew we were going to talk about this on the podcast all week, but I wasn't thinking of it in this way. But I've been failing all week long. So I just started I call it my official training for my racing season. I just
Mhm.
started it on Monday. And I like to do the same um, workouts for like 3 or 4 weeks in a row so I can kind of get better at them. So on Monday, my Mondays are my really busy day working. And so my workouts were a 45-minute run. And it was written as 3 times 10-minute at half marathon race pace, which would be an
Mhm.
8-minute mile. So it was 3 10-minute segments as 8-minute mile and then just recovery in between, like with a
Mhm.
warm up and a cool down, a 45-minute run. My run ended up being 42 minutes at a 10-minute pace. And then I ran out of time. I had to go teach a class. I came back after the class for 3 more minutes. And it was interesting because I was like, that could have been a total failure. Like I barely did any part of that workout as written. However, when I look at what I've been doing for the past few months, I've hardly been running at all. I've hardly run 45 minutes in a row, and running 45 minutes at a 10-minute pace is a stepping stone toward next week's 45-minute run. I might get in one of those 10-minute segments at 8-minute mile. or I might have time to do the whole 45 minutes without having to split it up into 2 runs. And it was interesting because as I was thinking about this in my head, I actually even posted about it because I wanted to share that your workouts don't always have to be perfect for them to be effective and
Mm-hmm.
still considered successful. Because
Mm-hmm.
I considered it a really successful workout, even though it was completely different than the workout, how it was written. But then I was thinking, I'm like, wow, it sounds like I'm making up excuses. Like, well, and plus I've been sick. That was my other excuse. I've been tired. I haven't been eating great. Like, I had all these excuses, but I didn't think of that as negative as having these excuses or justifying why I didn't do the workout. I was like, exactly what you just said, Wendy. Here's what's been going on in my life leading up to this workout. So, of course, it's not going to be 3 by 10 minutes at my half marathon race pace when I've been running once or twice a month for the last 3 months. And I'm tired and I'm a little under the weather and all these things. So they're not they're not excuses. They're reasons why your workout was how it was. And then now what can I change moving forward?
Right. I think context, again, for anything, context is everything. Looking at the context, looking at the big picture. That's why we're successful coaches, because we're able to look at the big picture of what's going on in the athletes that we coach's lives to come up with the reason, not the excuse, but valid reasons. And again, we should do a whole podcast on excuses versus valid reasons and training. um, to help inform them, educate them that, all these reasons add up to how they were able to execute or not execute. And it's not the end of the world. It's not going to make or break their race. It's really just a stepping stone to get to know the athlete better as a coach and share our experiences with them and relatable and move on. It's just
Right.
a workout.
Yeah, I had one of my athletes I coach. She was doing a little time trial at the gym on Sunday, and I mean, it was big. It was an Olympic distance triathlon, but it was the first time she's ever done a time trial like that at the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw her, and she had gotten out of the pool. I was swimming, and I saw her get out of the pool. Like, I saw about 500 left to swim, and I saw her get out. So I thought she was going to go right up to the cycling room. And when I finished, like 8 minutes later, she was still on the deck. And I was like, what are you doing? Shouldn't you be on the bike? She was like, oh, I just wanted to watch you swim for a little bit. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
but you're counting your transitions, right? And she was like, oh no, I didn't know I was supposed to. And then she got up to the cycling room and she was like, oh, I should have set up my bike before I started the swim. And then she got out on the run and she was like, oh, I should have taken in more calories. So at first, when I asked her, I said, what are 3 great things, great successes, great wins from this experience? And she was like, offhand, I can't think of any. And she was like, and it makes me really sad because I just did this really amazing thing. Like, how many people are going to spend 3 to 4 hours focusing on their training, doing this hard effort in the gym? And she said, I just kept thinking about all the things I did wrong.
And
Like
I'm like,
that.
that's awesome.
I know. And I said, next time you do this, you're going to cut off like an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. And in that story, because you mentioned success and failure and learning. And, I think too often we as people, athletes, humans, always spend too much time analyzing and focused on the negative thing, like forgetting to drink or eat or forgetting the nutrition or forgetting to set up your transition or forgetting, something that was important for you to have race day, instead of focusing on the things that went right. Don't focus on what you can't do, focus on what you can do.
Right.
It's really important.
Yeah. And whenever I have somebody do a race or even a time trial like this, I always say, tell me 3 things that went really well that you're really proud of, and 3 things that you're going to do differently next time.
Mm-hmm.
And then that just goes back to everything we've just talked about so far on this podcast is you learn from it and then you move on.
Yeah. Again, you got to have these quote unquote failures, whatever that means to you, in order to have success.
Right. So if you guys have listened to any talks on failures or books on failures or read any memoirs from any of the world's most famous people, everybody has had, even the people that we look up to that we think are like the pinnacle of success in life, they talk about their failures because it's important to note that just like Wendy and I, they don't consider them failures. They consider them lessons and learning and stepping stones and ways that they've become more resilient and more tenacious and stronger and get to where they are now.
Right.
So I wanted to ask you also, Wendy, because our podcast is on wellness, right? Overall wellness made easy. So maybe talk about how failure could affect our overall wellness. And maybe we can even talk about some simple ways that we can start reframing some of the stress that thinking that we are failures.
Well, I think it affects your mental health and self-worth. So, disappointment, you have some sort of failure, some sort of negative thing that happened that you didn't want to happen. You're disappointed, you're frustrated. You feel like you're not worth it. Imposter syndrome maybe. And again, when you're feeling disappointed or lack of self-worth, that's stressful, that creates anxiety, stuff we've talked about in the past. And it's stress that you don't need. And again, the way to overcome something like that is really just to reframe it, change your attitude about it. Focus on what you can control. It's like in a race, you get a flat tire. Instead of, kind of beating yourself up about it and getting frustrated and wasting time, do what you've practiced. You've practiced changing flat tires before your race. Stay positive. Just, calm down, calm yourself down, fix a flat tire, focus on what you can control, because standing there being disappointed that it happened is not going to make you move any farther towards the finish line. You just got to just step back, reframe what just happened and move on.
And in life scenarios and race scenarios, some of the best stories come from those situations that could definitely be a failure.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to inspire more people when you fail and either grow from it or move on from it than if you just everything is easy peasy all the time and you just breeze through life. A, that's kind of boring. And B, like people aren't inspired or they don't get excited about when we don't have those setbacks and we don't have those interesting and crazy things that have happened in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just got to review that failure and to give you feedback.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for my setback, I wouldn't have a comeback. You got to have setbacks to be able to have a comeback.
Right. Well, and
who doesn't like a good comeback?
I have a couple athletes that they always have like crazy things happen to them. Like one girl, like her bike fell off her car one time on the way to a race. And she's like, of course that happened to me, because she's the one who always has the crazy things. But that's fun and it's interesting. And she tells people these stories. So when people are like, oh, I could never do a triathlon, she's like, oh, I've had, this. One of my best friends, she at St. George 70.3 a few years back, she in transition, which if you guys have never been to a triathlon, you can only you bring everything into transition. And in a big race, you can't you don't have stuff outside of transition that's in case you forget something. Like everything that's in transition is all you have for the race. And she had two of the same foot shoe.
I know who you're talking about.
So she had to run an entire half marathon, you guys, with, I can't remember if it was 2 right shoes or 2 left shoes. Luckily, it was the same brand and the same model. That's why she didn't notice, but she had 2 pair of the same shoe. So she had to run the entire half marathon. So her foot was all jacked up. Her hip was all jacked up. She was, disappointed in her race, but like, what a funny story to tell.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I know exactly who you're talking about.
And so she's like, oh, and then the next year she's like, oh man, I have to do this race again because I have to run with the right shoes. And that could have been a failure to somebody.
That could have made someone quit the sport.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Again, it's more the like type A athletes. I see them, athletes I coach, get so frustrated out of something that I know from my experience is so minor.
Right.
But I know their personality is overreacting to what just happened. And so, it's my job to help them discover why they're overreacting on their own. So I
Right.
like athletes, I like to help them figure it out on their own by giving them the right questions, the right cues. And so they realize it and they learn from it on their own instead of me
Right.
telling them. They're experiencing the opportunity to say, you're right. I understand why this happened. It's not a big deal. I'm going to get some sleep tonight. Tomorrow's another day.
Right. And I think a good actionable step that you guys, if you are that person, if you're listening and you're like, oh my gosh, this is me. Like every time I suck at something, or every time I don't do my workout as planned, or every time I XYZ, whatever area in your life, you feel like a failure, then maybe take what Wendy and I've been talking about, maybe grab your journal or your notebook. And anytime you have that feeling of I failed, or this thing I did was I was a failure at it, or it was a failed attempt or whatever, write out, maybe journal about it, but write what you learned from it so that you can see on paper what you learned from this experience. And I can't imagine an experience where I fail at something that I didn't learn something from it.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
can't like even think of a scenario where that would be a thing.
So just another little story. My first age group nationals for Olympic distance racing to qualify for Worlds for Olympic distance racing was in 1996, Orange County, California. I was injured. I had a pretty big injury, overtraining, whatever,
The usual.
Who knew? 1996. I went to California. My parents were there. I did the swim. I was exhausted on the bike. I was overtrained, but back then I didn't know what that meant. And my hip, I pulled a hip flexor groin area. It hurt so bad. I ran out of transition. I started bawling and I quit. Again, quitting, failure. I quit at student teaching. I quit a triathlon. 2 of the biggest things I've ever quit, like those are big, big things in my life that had happened. And I remember I was just crying because I was really disappointed because again, my parents were there. We spent so much money to get to this event. It was nationals and I didn't finish. What a huge failure not finishing a race could be. And again, it's a story I can tell people and say it happens. The reason I didn't finish is I couldn't run. But what I know now is I could have walked it. And I wasn't in that mindset. I didn't have a coach. No one ever told me, do what you can just to cross the finish line is better than not finishing at all. And now I know to say, you know what, I didn't finish. It was disappointment. I wish I had someone to tell me, well, you can walk, just walk and finish it.
Right.
That would have felt better than not finishing at all. So again, that opportunity to learn, share my experience with others is even a bigger deal. I'm glad it happened.
Right. Right. Yeah, you guys, if you can give yourself some love, self-love, grace, self-care, I feel like that will go a long way. I feel like everything we talk about, it all comes down to just honoring yourself and just giving yourself a pass, giving yourself some grace, letting some things go, because in the grand scheme of life, it's not going to make or break who you are as a human.
Oh my gosh. Again, the influence I am on the age group swimmers I coach, like my coach was to me, every time I'm talking to them, like you just said, in the big picture, stressing over this one exam isn't going to change your life at all.
Right.
Because I've been there. I was a high school student. You're up all night studying for an exam. You miss practice or whatever. Just preaching to them. Take care of yourself. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself. But in the big picture of life that you haven't experienced yet, it's not a big deal, because that's what everyone told us when we were their age. But we didn't know. We couldn't have believed them because we hadn't experienced it yet.
Right. And I think also as we get older and have more experiences that we think are that. I remember breaking up with my high school boyfriend like 20 times. Whenever we would break up, I was like, I was torn apart.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like the worst. I was like never going to recover from it. It was like the worst thing ever in my life. And then like 2 days later, we would get back together.
Uh-huh.
So like, I can't imagine like my poor mother, who I'm just like, I'm like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. And then 2 days later, we're like, la, 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 we love each other. We're back together. So I just think that if we can love ourselves enough to accept that and welcome failure and just know, you know what, at some point today, I'm going to fail. I did my sprint triathlon with my athletes this morning.
Mm-hmm.
I almost bailed. I actually texted them. I slept like a half hour last night. I'm a hot mess right now in my whole life. I texted them at 5 a.m. and I said, I haven't been to sleep yet. I'm fighting this cold or whatever it is. I'm going to bail. Have fun. Let me know how it goes. And then I'm laying there. I couldn't go back to sleep. I got up, did some things, and it was like 6:15. And I'm like, I'm already up. I'm just going to go for it. So I go to the gym. I do the sprint triathlon, 5 minutes slower than 2 weeks ago. 5 minutes slower. But I kind of knew it was going to be, I was like, it's going to be kind of crappy, but I'm going to feel so much better knowing that I got out and worked a little bit, got my heart rate up, did the best effort that I could for today.
Right.
And I felt so much better doing it. I was glad I got to see people. My whole day will be better because of it. And to some people that might have been a failure. And to me, it was a success because I did something I wanted to do it, but I just didn't think physically I was going to be able to. So it's just a good reminder that it's okay to try things and suck at them. It's okay to go into a workout knowing it's not going to be a great workout. It's okay to go out to eat and drink too much or eat too many desserts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to make yourself vulnerable and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any final words?
No, again, I think we've kind of said a lot. It just kind of ties into all the wellness topics that we've been doing.
Yeah.
Learn from it. If you can't, talk to someone about it so they can help you see all the opportunities for learning from the experience you had, and fail forward, continue to fail, because you'll continue to have more successes.
Yes. And remember that acronym. I really like that.
Yeah.
Do you have a listener question?
I do. And it just came in today. It's from an athlete I coach. She texted me and she shared some data from her Garmin HRV data. And she has been commenting that she's tired with her training this week, and she's still executing. She's still hitting the power, the heart rate, the pace. She's just tired. This is a new training plan for her. She's not used to being tired. And so she shared this data with me and she wanted me to analyze it for her. It's HRV data. And I told her, like, technology is good, but if you're internally feeling like you're tired, then you're tired. You don't need the data
You
to
don't
tell
need
you you're
you
tired.
doesn't need you to tell her that she's tired.
Right. And she doesn't need a Garmin watch to tell her that she's tired. So it was an opportunity for me to teach her about heart rate. If you start tracking your resting heart rate in the morning, if you wake up under controlled non-alarm issues and you track your resting heart rate, if your heart rate is about 10 beats elevated for a period of time, that's a confirmation you're either overexerting yourself or you possibly may be getting sick. So it was an opportunity to kind of really talk about the heart rate data with her, but just to acknowledge, and because she thought it was all in her mind, she's like, it's not in my mind. I'm like, it's not in your mind.
You're
It's
like,
a
I believe you.
physical feeling that you're tired. And look, when you traveled and you did all this work that you were getting like 2 or 3 hours sleep a night for 5 nights. And then you traveled and you helped your ultra running friend and you ended up running 15 miles. And we thought that was going to be a day off. And then you had to travel home. And then you have the stress of your family members in the hospital. And that all adds up. There's a reason you're tired, but it's not fake. It's a real thing. And I just like to encourage athletes to listen to their bodies and acknowledge stuff and kind of just get away from the technology for a while. You don't need a watch to tell you you're tired, or you don't need a watch to tell you that you're not. You just
Right.
need to really get in tune with your body for longevity in this. I like to say this a lot, for longevity in the sport. Really learn rate of perceived effort. You can track your sleep yourself. You don't need your Garmin to tell you how much sleep you got. You need to know, how much sleep do you think you got? Were you
Right.
awake 3 times or did you sleep through the night?
Right.
Your Garmin's not going to know that.
Right. And in addition to that, like I always one of the questions I ask my athletes on is, on a scale from 1 to 10, how are you feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally?
Mhm.
Because that it's not just about being fit. It's not about just like, oh, I'm physically exhausted. You could have, like, your person, a big work trip, not sleeping enough. They could be just mentally or emotionally
Yeah.
exhausted, taking care of a loved one. I have one of my friends, her uncle just died and she's there, she had to travel for home for a funeral. So she has travel costs. She has to take time off work and somebody just died. So like,
That's
that's
a
a
lot. That
lot.
changes.
Yeah. And it's a lot of emotional stress. So if you're feeling, and Wendy and I both are huge on listening to your body, but also internally, not just the physical part, but the mental and emotional part. And if you're exhausted, take a break, take some time off. I don't plan rest days. I don't plan rest days for my athletes. But if they tell me on a scale from 1 to 10 that they're like a 4 on any of those levels, on physical, mental, or emotional, 4 or lower, they need to take some time off.
Yeah, and I had told her, I go, let's take today off, and she decided to swim today and take tomorrow off, which is fine.
Mhm.
And she even mentioned, I feel like a slacker when I take time off. And I said, that's how you feel. That no one told you that. That's your feeling, that we need to try some new strategies so you don't feel that way anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. You have
Um,
control over your own feelings.
right. And rest is part of the training process. And what should have, in hindsight, again, learning opportunity for me as her coach, is I should have modified the beginning of the week, because she did this 15-mile run as a pacer with her friend that I didn't have in the plan. I thought she was going to run 3 or 4 miles that day,
Right.
but she didn't. So I should have said, okay, you ended up doing a lot more than we anticipated. I need to modify the workouts. But I didn't know. I didn't think I should have to, because I don't know everything going on in someone's life.
Right.
So again, the communication was huge with me as her coach, to communicate how she's feeling. So now we can, modify what we need to moving forward. And it's a learning opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. So my listener question is really interesting, and you'll probably have a few things to weigh in as well. But he was wondering, what's up? That was the way he phrased it. What's up with running shoes these days? is it worth spending $200 or $300 on a pair of running shoes? Is it worth the money? What do they do for you? Why are they so expensive? What's up with the running shoes? And he's a little bit older, so he, has probably seen a lot of running shoes through the years. He's not a runner. He was just very curious about the running shoes. And I figured that's a valid thing to talk about, because especially if you're new and entering the sport of running or triathlon, you need to get some running shoes. And you could spend $30 on running shoes, and you could spend $300 on running shoes. So for me personally, when I started, I'm an older athlete. Like Wendy and I have said this many times, I've been doing this sport for a really long time. And what's most important to me is the longevity in this sport. I want to do it as long as I feel like doing it. And in order to do that, I have to protect my body. When I buy more expensive shoes, it's less stress on my body in general. So the shoes I have now, they're like this high. I know you guys have seen everyone a bunch of those really cushioned padded shoes with the little plate, the carbon plate that helps keep you a little more forward on the ball of your foot. Those are really popular right now, and they are really expensive. You could probably buy the low end model for like $100, and then they go up to like $400. So I would say 100%, if you're new into running or triathlon, get your gait analyzed at a real running store, like not just like a sports store, but like a running specific store, so that you have a shoe that fits the way you run and that fits your foot. And then you can decide within that shoe, to make sure it has the right fit for you, how much money you want to spend. But I would tell everybody starting any sport, spend as little money as possible, because you might be a one and done. You might train for a while and decide you don't want to race. There's so many things that could happen. I would never like go out and buy a brand new time trial bike for your first triathlon. Borrow someone's bike, get it kind of fitted, ride any old bike. Get a bike from Walmart. It doesn't matter, to see if you like it. And then if you like it and you love it, then you can start pouring some resources into it.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to running, I think comfort is key. And so getting your run form analyzed, getting your gait analyzed. So what that's going to do, it's going to tell you if you're a neutral runner, if you have pronation where you go in, or if you have supination where you go out. Are you a heel striker? Are you a midfoot striker? Are you a toe striker? So there's a lot of things that someone's looking at to put you in the proper shoe, whether it's a stability shoe or a neutral shoe. And for me, the last time I bought shoes, and I'm on the Fleet Feet Canton racing team, so I get free product now, but they had me try out a bunch of different shoes for road and for trail. And they encouraged me to try out one road. So as part of this is I had a gift. I won a gift certificate to, I could only buy a certain brand of shoe at one running store. So I had to make a trip to Atlanta, buy this running shoe. It was okay. Not my favorite. And then my Fleet Feet racing team gave me another trail shoe. I didn't like them. Popular shoes, great shoes, professionals wear them. I didn't like them. And so I went back to what I love, is my Hoka Speed Goats. So I was given free pairs of shoes that I'm like, this is not for me. I know the Hoka trail shoe is what I need. And then I went on a limb and I tried some new road shoes. And oh my God, I'm so glad I did, because I found this super, I think it's the ASIC Nova Blast, which is now banned. We found out within the last month. It's banned in Ironman, and I have no problem with Ironman. And so I'm like, oh, I found a really good shoe that I'm going to pay top dollar for, because it's the most comfortable shoe. Since I broke my patella, it's really cushy and soft, and I don't feel my knee at all. So when I had the ability to run downhill, I didn't feel any pain in my knee because of these shoes. And so when you find the shoe you want, money's not a factor. You're gonna get the shoe that's most comfortable, that feels good, that lasts. And again, it's all about comfort and fit. You don't want to run in a stability shoe when you don't need a stability shoe just because it's cheap, because you could get injured. I have before.
I have too.
And you don't want to run in a neutral shoe because it's cheap when you should be running in a stability shoe.
Right. And you can, there's so many ways these days that you could get, if you find a shoe that works for you. So I actually just bought 2 new pair of shoes this last week. And that's why this person asked me the question, because I was like, new shoe day. And I have these like shiny, bright blue and green shoes that are like this high with the little carbon plate. And they're like, what the heck are those? And they're my same shoe I've been wearing the last couple of years. It's the Saucony Elite something. I should know my shoe, but I know if I see it. But they were on sale half price. So you guys can live at Roadrunner Sports. I went online and they were like, oh, that your shoe, it was last year's model, but everything's the same on the shoe. It was just half price. So I had to buy 2.
Yeah.
That just makes sense.
Yeah.
But I 100% agree. If you find a shoe that, like for me, I don't want to be sore the next day because I want to keep training, because I like moving my body. And I don't want my knees to hurt. I don't want my shins to hurt. I don't want my ankles to hurt. I'm getting older and I want to keep doing this sport. So I'm going to spend money to make sure that my body's taken care of.
Yeah. Good answer.
So yes, to answer your question, for me, the shoes are worth the money.
Yeah.
What are you most excited for in this upcoming week?
I'm going to be volunteering at a race.
Ooh.
And I'm really excited about it. You know, I kind of have some issues with the volunteering for the race. It's going to be the overnight section of a race, the Georgia Death Race. And I have a swim meet that day, and I'm trying to kind of, coordinate how it's all going to work out, because it's a prelims finals meet and blah, 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 blah. But I don't want to miss it. One of my good friends is doing it. We both ran it, the Georgia Death Race in 2022. I finished, she didn't. So I get what it feels like to want to finish. I didn't finish my first 100-mile trail running attempt, and I had to do it the next year. So I really want to be there to support her. That's why I want to volunteer for the overnight, so I could be there at the finish line. And so I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, volunteering is really fun. I would recommend, if you're thinking about maybe doing a 5K or a half marathon or a sprint triathlon or something that you don't know really anything about, for me, the best thing to do is to go out and volunteer, and you can see how everything is done. So before I did my first Ironman, my ex-husband, he's from upstate New York, and his niece was getting married. And it was probably about, I think it was like a 3 or 4 hour drive from Lake Placid. And we were going to be there the weekend of the Lake Placid Ironman. And so I knew nothing about Ironman. I didn't know anyone who had ever done an Ironman when I did my first Ironman. And so I went and volunteered all day. I started as lifeguard and until the last person came in. And then I moved to transition, and then I moved to the finish line. So I was there from like 4 a.m. to like midnight. I volunteered all over the place, and it gave me a really good idea of the way an Ironman works and the way it runs. And it was really, really beneficial for me going into my first race.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I'm always like, oh, what are you excited about? And I'm thinking, like, I don't even know what I'm excited about. I'm a little bit excited about St. Patrick's Day because my daughter is super into leprechauns right now. And she wants to catch a leprechaun this year. And so I bought, they make vegan marshmallows called Dandies. So I bought a bunch of Dandies, and I bought this like green food dye, this like natural food dye stuff. And I was just going to make this really sticky green marshmallow explosion thing so that we can try to catch a leprechaun.
I love it.
She's just really excited about it. And so I'm excited to see how it all comes together.
Yeah. Nice.
Well, that'll be, everyone's going to be on the edge of their seat waiting for next week's podcast to see if we actually caught a leprechaun.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you guys, thank you guys for being here. We want to know your wellness wins. Did you hear how excited we were at the beginning when we were talking about how 2 people told us their wellness wins after listening to our podcast? So you can post in the comments, or you can reach out to us and let us know your wellness win for the week. Anything else, Wendy?
Make it
Make
a
it a
great
great
day.
day. Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Wellness Made Easy with Wendy and Kirsten.
If you want to learn more about us or anything we talked about today, check out the links in our show notes.
We would love to know what you think of our podcast and what you want more of. So drop us a comment, send us a message, and help us out by leaving us a rating and a review.
And don't forget to let us know your wellness win for this week.
Thanks for listening.
Make it a great day.